Blah doopla.
Hoopla dupla.
Hoopla.
Blah doopla.
Scoopity boopla.
Deadpool and Wolverhoopla.
Hey!
And welcome.
Welcome to Hero Hoopla,
Hoopla!
the unofficial podcast of destroying the multiverse.
Just a little.
Again.
Once again. We are here this week to talk about the newest MCU movie, the greatest MCU movie, maybe. Deadpool and Wolverine. My goodness. What a fun and exciting movie
Fun
it was.
movie.
I can't wait to talk about it with
Great
all
adventure.
the wonderful members of the Hoopla Crewpla joining me as always. We have the Marvel mastermind, Andy Smith.
Is that my name? The Marvel Mastermind? Andy
I
Smith
like
here,
that.
connoisseur of many nerdy things, Star Wars, Lord of the Rings. By the way, we have some Lord of the Rings coming up. Marvel, DC. There's a lot going on. It's time to get
We're
back to the
feasting.
hoopla.
Feasting.
The Hoopla's back, and we're going to be busy over the next few months, so everybody stay tuned. And of course, we have the superhero.
Savant.
Oh,
Oh, that's good.
whoa.
I was just going to say
That's
the
great.
superhero, Chris Potter.
I mean, I'll take that too.
Superhero guy.
Or you could have been throwing the order off and going with Jake first. I don't know.
No, I would
That
never.
would've
do
been
that.
crazy.
We do have the superhero savant, Chris Pio, joining us as always.
What's up, gang? Chris Pio here. So stoked to be back in a theater and excited
Oh, yeah.
for what we are watching on that silver screen. And even more excited to sit here and talk about it with you guys. Deadpool and Wolverine was excellent, and we are going to get into the details right here.
Absolutely. As soon as we bring in our fourth and most important member of the Hoopla Crewpla, the ugliest little dog you've ever seen.
Oh,
Weird little tongue, but he's
He's
lovable
cute.
as can be.
you're
Jake
cute
Laxton.
too, Jake.
Yeah, what a great dog pool we got here in this movie. Absolute delight. Yeah, I very fitting for the character. Absolutely. Yeah. Can't
So
wait
you're not
to
going to
see,
introduce yourself? You are just Dogpool?
I just am dog pool.
Yes,
I'm
for the remainder of the podcast. For the next hour, you will be listening to Dogpool.
just licking the microphone. Yeah, that'll be me.
ASMR.
Disgusting.
Yeah, disgusting.
So thank you all for tuning into this episode of the Hoopla podcast. I can't wait to talk about this little movie. It was very fun, very exciting. And if you want to stay up to date with everything that we're doing in the Hoopla world and all of our little insights, little clips and stuff, Chris, where can people find us online?
The conversation is hot, hot, hot. It has been a hot summer, but online we are talking even more. Follow us at Hoopla Podcast on Twitter, or also known as X, Instagram, and TikTok for behind-the-scenes content, more discussion. We want to hear your thoughts. What did you think about Deadpool and Wolverine? Is it here to save the MCU? Did it break it even more? Lots to talk about, so make sure to follow us at Hoopla Podcasts on X, Instagram, and TikTok.
Absolutely. And tell us what you think about Doctor Doom, because we are not talking about that today. We're talking about Deadpool.
What a
We
weekend.
might talk about it.
What a
but that'll be
weekend.
We
later.
might talk about it.
Yeah, we might talk.
An incredibly exciting weekend. And without any further ado, let's just dive on into it, boys. We're back. Deadpool, after 6 years since Deadpool 2 came out,
Oh,
we're
wow.
finally back at it. Ryan Reynolds convinced his good old buddy Hugh Jackman to don the claws once again, and they went freaking wild with this one. And for those of you listening, the Hoopla Crewpla got together live in person, and we watched this movie
Needed a live watch.
as a collective bunch in the
What an
theater,
occasion.
hand in hand with each other, to watch every single wonderful moment of this. Were you not holding their hands, Chris? Because I was definitely
I was
holding
holding
Jake's hand the
hands.
whole time. Okay, perfect.
I was passing around the pizza box through the seats.
Ooh, those
Some
were
good
good.
pizza.
It's good pizza, good popcorn.
Better quesadillas.
And
That's
a
their
better
slogan now. That's Silver
movie.
Spot's slogan. Good pizza, good popcorn. Better.
And best of all,
what are words?
the movie was we're talking about movies. No more food talk. It's movie talk time. Yeah, I think we'll just talk initial reactions before we get too deep into the plot and stuff. But this movie was fun as hell. I just loved being in the theater with you guys, being in the theater environment with everybody laughing along, and just experiencing this movie from the very start. Right. The intro credit scene of him dancing to Bye 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 while brutally murdering the TVA was magical.
Not just brutally murdering the TVA, but the weapon of choice being Logan's dead adamantium skeleton.
JB, I feel like that was this movie. It starts with the classic Marvel logo coming towards you, but they're in the frames. There are a few X-Men, Wolverine, or Deadpool homages, and then you hear him, Ryan Reynolds with the overlay, and we get right into it. And you said it. We're all just sitting there, hand in hand, but also grinning from the start of this movie to the end of this movie. I think it's the most fun I've had in a theater in a few years. Like this was just pure entertainment. Not that I'm going to say it's like the best movie I've seen in the past 6 months, but it was definitely the most entertaining movie I've seen in the past 6 months. Like just so much fun. Entertainment at its height.
This was definitely the most entertaining Marvel film since Guardians 3.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't think it's fair to say that anyone said anything tongue-in-cheek in this movie, because the tongue started in the cheek from the very beginning title sequence. You
Except
can't
for
say
dog
something
pools.
tongue-in-cheek if you were talking out of your tongue within the cheek the whole time. Andy, to your point, I mean, the joke started literally at the title sequence. There was no room for any seriousness whatsoever. And I think it just carried that throughout the entire film. It was just yuck after yuck after yuck.
Yeah, I want to get some statistics on this movie of joke per minute, because it's got to be, I mean, it might be triple digits joke per minute. Every single line.
I think that's low.
Well, my concern with the movie generally was a new studio now owns this property. They're going to lean into what made this property popular. We kind of saw it maybe with Ragnarok going to Love and Thunder, or Guardians 1 going into Guardians 2. Like they leaned into certain things. And with Deadpool, yes, there was 5 jokes per minute, but they landed. They were consistently landing. And that's just special writing. Like that's pretty incredible. It's a feat.
To that point, this is Deadpool 3. If we look at Guardians 1, Guardians 2, and then Guardians 3, I guess Marvel sort of has this trend for sort of like reaching out and sort of figuring out where they land in the second film, and they just know the recipe where everything makes sense to come movie number 3. And I mean, they've done it again. This is a great source of entertainment. I mean, even take the Spider-Man Tom Holland films, the third one. Incredible. That's our new age Marvel for you.
Yeah,
Jake,
and
you
we
bring
see
up an excellent point. I just want to talk to Jake's point real quick. You just kind of sparked something. You're right. I mean, a trilogy is a trilogy for a reason. There's a word for it. Things come in threes. That makes sense. But considering
1, 2, 3.
No, I'm laying a base.
trilogy is a trilogy because there's a word for it. Hey, I agree.
Am I wrong?
You're
I said anything inaccurate.
The man is correct.
This man is spitting
Cook,
facts.
baby, cook.
You gotta let me cook. Look, I'm just turning on the oven, and you're gonna start laughing. Okay, it has to preheat, baby.
You got a funny oven.
Turn it to
When you
300.
talk about trilogies, and now I've lost my point. No. You're right. When they work out for the first 2 movies of any series, of any franchises or characters trilogy, you're talking about Iron Man 3. You talk about Thor 3, which was probably the most entertaining Thor, probably the best Thor in Ragnarok. You get these directors who have experience with the characters, not only with the actors, but also writing these characters and going through their stories. And then once you get to the third movie, you've kind of let them loose and say, okay, finally tell your story. That's fine. You know, Ragnarok is a completely new story. It was a ton of fun. We had a lot of fun with that movie. And then they tried to do Thor 4. It didn't work out so well. Guardians 3.
Because there is not a word for four things.
But Chris, take this to that point. That was Taika Waititi's second Thor film. So if we had another Thor movie.
But my point was going off your point. So you just ruined your own basis.
No, but
it's still supportive.
It's still supportive.
But to center back on Deadpool, you're exactly right. You get to this third film where you are unshackled by the burdens of the MCU. There's no need for you to carry on. There's no extra credit scenes that needs to say, oh, Deadpool or Wolverine will return. There's nothing. This was just a completely, I don't want to say independent movie, because again, I did just give you the definition of what a trilogy is, but it is a movie that is unshackled by the burdens of needing to continue something forward. It was just jokes. It was just laughter and fun and a celebration of the Fox universe.
Yeah.
Yeah. What
and
can
the demise
be
of it as
unburdened
well.
by what has been.
And the demise.
Burdened by what has been.
We do see the success of this movie popping up in the box office this weekend with the highest ever box office for an R-rated film, $444 million worldwide, $211 domestic, which beats the first Deadpool movie from 2016 at $264 million and $132 million domestic.
Yeah.
So people are loving the Deadpool. People are ready for a new superhero movie to come back, be a good, entertaining movie, and not just another one of these Marvel or DC things that are just kind of thrust upon us without anyone actually caring enough to make an entertaining movie.
Can we just emphasize that?
Also, yeah.
I just want.
We need. You can tell what we're reviewing is good when the Hoopla Crewpla is excited.
Jake, I just want to say something, and then you jump in. We need to emphasize this: the seventh largest domestic opening of all time for an R-rated film, for a franchise that has felt middling over the past few years, that does not have any. There's nothing in my mind that says there's going to be a drop off in box office here. This was an incredible feat. It beat the highest rated R-rated film by like 70 million, like you said.
Yeah,
that is incredible. Sorry, Jake, go for it.
Yeah, and I think it also speaks to the fact that it's also a Marvel property. But beyond that, I don't think the American populace is thwarted by the rated R rating anymore. Jim and I were talking about it mid-film, how there was a little 5-year-old girl in the front row at an 10 p.m. showing. I mean, that is insane. That is actually insane.
Loving it. All the brutal murders. She was cheering along. She was saying,
happy.
Rip out his jugular.
Rip out his, stab him in the dick. Stab him in the dick. And I had a patient in the chair today who told me he was so excited to bring his boys to go see the Deadpool film. And I was like doing my exam, looking at his mouth, and I was like, how do I word this to tell you not to do that? To be like a morally sound parent. And I was like, yeah, it was very Deadpool-like. And he was like, yeah, they're going to love it. I was like, damn, didn't quite work. But the point is, the American populace they're not perturbed by the rated R,
Well, that
the
might be
level.
That might be true, but generally there's just less of a population that can actually see the film. And the fact that it did this well, when it's not, I mean, there was a few kids in the movie theater, which to each their own, but it's not like other Marvel properties. The Avengers 1 was scores of families, and like kind of this like 4-quadrant film. You have everyone of ages, different types of people. When you have an R-rated film, that's just more difficult. But it was putting people back in theaters, and we haven't really seen that since, say, to this level, Barbie, Oppenheimer.
Yeah. Which was a great.
I didn't
era,
have
by
this
the
much
way.
fun in Oppenheimer.
Oh, absolutely
not even close. But more people did die in Oppenheimer, so if that's how you're balancing the scales, then
Jesus. Not if you're losing an entire universe like in this film, am I right?
that's true.
But they saved the universe. Spoilers.
Oh yeah,
shit.
it's time to get into the spoiler section of the episode for the greatest single moment of any movie I've ever seen ever, or at least in recent memory. When Chris Evans shows up in the wasteland.
Yeah.
And he's wearing that suit that looks, he's got some sort of raggedy Captain America suit on. And Deadpool goes, he's going to say it. He's going to say it. Avengers, flame on.
Flame on. That was the roar of that theater. The roar.
Incredible.
Yeah, that was.
I've never been so surprised by a single moment in cinematic history as I was in the flame on moment. Incredible.
Yeah. You couldn't stop talking about it.
No, I never will.
I mean, Chris and I went, to an extent talking about how they did such a good job with the misdirect, showing all the different snapshots of Captain America from Civil War, from all the Avengers films, and then proceeding with costume design. And then he pulls back the cloak and he's wearing his dark navy classic Captain America suit, or so you think.
Right.
And then next thing you know, we got fire. We got fire, baby. And we are alive. We are ablazing.
Not to mention the misdirect in that Deadpool looks up to Captain America. I mean, yes, he wants to be an Avenger, but he's always loved the Captain America hero aspect of it all. So to watch Deadpool also get tricked is just a genius little display of trickery.
It's so refreshing to watch this movie alongside a character in the movie.
Yes.
That's commenting. I mean, it's obviously the fourth wall break is just wonderful. It's so different than any other movie experience, right? And you feel it, and you can actually just hear Ryan Reynolds is behind the mask, and you feel like you could just have a chat with Ryan Reynolds about this movie, but you're actually chatting with Deadpool.
Mm-hmm. We should get Deadpool on the pod. Great casting. That'd be awesome.
Oh, that would be fun.
We should.
Yeah, so that was by far my favorite moment of the movie. Did you guys have any particular moments that stood out as being spectacular?
Oh, God, it's hard to pick a standout. I mean, it was just a joyride from start to finish.
Jennifer Garner, Wesley Snipes entrance was...
that was another big one. Big reaction from the crowd for that.
You're forgetting
NX23.
I'm not. But those two in particular were great. Everyone sort of expected X23 or the return of Daphne Keane, but Channing Tatum was just as Gambit just totally threw me. I don't know.
That was funny. So
I loved it.
Did you guys I wonder how many people are just like, why is Channing Tatum talking like that, and what's going on right now?
Yeah. Andy, give us the lowdown on the lore. Give us the lore master on Gambit.
Jamie, after X-Men Origins came out, Wolverine, we had a Gambit character, and for 10 or 12 years, we were holding on to this. It was announced early at one of those big Hall H panels that Channing Tatum is Gambit. 12 years later, we haven't heard about it since. And the fact that they pull it in this way, and he just leans into the Louisiana odd accent, and just everyone at the time, this was right around the same time that 21 Jump Street, right after 21 Jump Street had come out. So he was kind of he was getting more and more roles. And people thought that's a really odd choice, but we've been holding on to it just to see what it could be. And finally, in 2024, we got it,
and it was perfection.
I love the X-Men movies, but boy, Channing Tatum really dodged a bullet career-wise there.
That is true.
Hate to say it. It's also not a good sign for announcements when your movie is called X-Men Origins : and they only made one movie of one origin story.
Yeah.
Oh shit!
Let's just say they might have
actually.
needed to change the timeline after that, and they did. They wiped it clean.
But Daphne
redemption
Keane,
for
as
these
Jake says,
characters.
made it back. X-23 returning, spectacular.
Yep.
Hot off the heels of the hit show, The Acolyte, everybody's favorite Star Wars show.
Hey, I think
put those words in my mouth.
I think Daphne Keane is going to be a really good actress for a long time. Like,
Agreed.
she was great in Acolyte. She was great as the kid actress in Logan, and here as a young adult. Wonderful. So I hope she stays around a little bit in the universe. Like, I think that would be refreshing to get that viewpoint of Wolverine.
I completely agree, Andy. If she's willing to pick up the mantle, there's a lot of potential growth opportunity for Marvel going forward. I think it would be great to see her and Tom Holland team up at some point in the future.
Yes.
That'd be really cool.
Yes.
That's all possible now.
Give
her
me
into
Young
the Young
Avengers.
Or hear me out. Daphne Keane and the new Miles Morales live action. I want that. I want
That would
that.
also be cool.
Sure. Great.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see if anything that happened in this movie moves on with the MCU. As Chris, you were saying at the beginning of this episode, it's kind of nice that it's just kind of a standalone. It references other aspects of Marvel, the MCU, and other non-MCU Marvel movies.
Right.
But it's nice that it can just be its own thing. So I don't know if any of these characters are going to make it through. Most of them died in this mystery world, but that doesn't mean anything.
Well, Jamie, so I'll answer now.
Blade.
My standout point, I think, was actually, the movie was so filled with jokes. And that's a good thing because, like Andrew said earlier, I'd say most of them, 90% landed, whether you're a Marvel fan or not. It was funny all the way throughout. And so, funnily enough, I think the standout moment might have actually been the campfire scene with Daphne Keane.
Yes.
I think
yes.
when Logan is coming to terms with his failure in his particular universe, and this is just after Deadpool and Wolverine fight for the second time in the minivan, hilarious. But he realizes that Deadpool made an educated wish and maybe could not restore his universe. And so that's when Logan finds the bourbon, starts drinking, wants to be alone again, which is a common theme for that character. And so when Daphne Keane puts on the acting chops and really, I mean, it's the biggest stretch. Obviously the action scenes are great, but it's the biggest stretch where she's the focal point of the scene. She knocks it out of the park. And I think that might be my favorite moment.
You were always
Because
the wrong guy.
yeah, you're always See, and it's just like it's the through line of the X-Men universe, and so to see that scene and to see her being the one that saves him in a way, brings him back into the fold, brings him back from the brink, I think was just a really special moment for the celebration of the X-Men universe. In a movie filled with jokes, it's funny that I'm choosing a very somber scene, but I think it's hard to pick one joke. It's very easy to highlight that as a success of the film.
Yeah. Definitely stands out against all the jokes to have that moment where you're like, oh my God, am I feeling emotions right now?
Well, and it's
What is
after,
happening?
right? Like, I think one of the best superhero movies of the past 10 years in Logan in 2016, 2017, that was just such a wonderful ending to a character. And the thought was, how do you bring him back after this? After that just wonderful, like, send off. And it's by doing all the jokes, which started immediately. Bashing someone's skull, his skull up against the
Deadpool
TVA.
says that exact question you just asked at the start of the movie. How
And
do we
then
do this respectfully?
And then you bring X-23 back and have her talk to a different version of Logan, but they still know each other. And there's just, there's a really great emotional attachment that works, even though it's just a quick scene.
And speaking of all the different versions of Logan, that montage we get when Deadpool is going to find a new Logan to bring back to his universe. Incredible.
Oh, yeah.
With the comic accurate 5'2" Wolverine.
Yes.
That's
Fantastic.
We get the Henry Cavill Wolverine who does this thing
awesome.
from Mission Impossible where he like cocks his fists. That meme that's been going around the internet. And
By the way,
I didn't get that until you guys told me about that.
that is a really good point. Actually.
By the way, Henry Cavill, once again, has been they've been saying he's gonna have a role in the MCU for 3 or 4 years, and people were saying, is it the Captain Britain? He could be the Captain Britain, like the British Captain America. No, he's just Cavalrine, baby. Cavalrine.
Poor Henry has been tossed around by all these studios. I know we're talking Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman, but I would love to see him finally get his shot in a stable role.
Yeah, one of these days. Jake, did you go? Was your favorite moment yet?
I mentioned the Wesley Snipes situation.
Yes.
Yeah, that was great.
Let's go.
But like the Honda Odyssey, that was a great shout out to the vehicle. That fight scene was incredible.
The fight scene or them in the CarMax? Because I liked both.
Oh, see, now that's true. That's a great point as well. Honestly, across the board, I just found this significant entertainment value out of the whole film. It was fun to see them go up against Professor X's sister. I think that was an interesting villain choice for this movie. At the end of the film, I do feel as though Daphne Keane, I feel like they could have utilized her more. And I was a little saddened that we did not get more footage or screen time with her doing her thing.
That could have helped, I think, a little bit in the middle of the film. But I think they got the emotional moments that they wanted. They really were. Sure. They were really heightening just the Wolverine and Deadpool's relationship throughout.
Absolutely.
I think they were just not wanting to pull off to all these other characters, even though it was a lot of fun. And I think to that point, I really enjoyed the action sequence. Actually, two in particular. The first being the very first Deadpool and Wolverine fight, in front of like all the wasteland that Eliath has created with the 20th Century Fox and everything that came with
Incredible
that.
backdrop.
But it was the first time in a long time that we've seen Wolverine truly like go, like, I was gonna say Hulk out, but he's not a Hulk. You know what I mean? He was just Wolverine out. Like it. I thought the choreography of that fight was incredible, and there was one moment where they took the camera in a single shot across, and actually they did this twice. They did that also with all the Deadpools.
Scene,
but they did that earlier in the film across the wasteland of just Deadpool and Wolverine back and forth. And because they both regenerate, they could just do the gnarliest things that you could never do in any other superhero fight. And it's just gory and crazy. And there was a few times that I squirmed because there was a broken limb or something that really it just was beautiful.
Baby knife.
The baby knife gag was hilarious.
And then taking that and going into when you go into Ant-Man, giant man's body, and there's the whole war. Like there was a mutant war. That's the first time we've seen a mutant war since X3, right? There was probably 5 or 6 different mutants that were fighting. Like it was fun seeing like Toad jump around, and you had X-23 going, jumping on someone.
Juggernaut.
Juggernaut. Right. Getting on Juggernaut.
I'm the Juggernaut, bitch.
Just
Andy,
wonderful.
That's such a good point about the gnarliness of the fights, because when you consider Daphne Keane in The Acolyte, who was training, very difficult choreography with sabers and fighting styles and all this, martial arts, the object is to not hit someone with your blade until the actual scene calls for it. Meanwhile, you're watching these scenes where they're just stabbing everyone as soon as possible and not going down. It doesn't matter if your blade connects, or in this case,
and
claws.
Just screaming. She would scream and jump on her enemy.
The choreography is so different, and it's more a testament to the team that put all those fights together. It's funny to see a scene where you can't hit someone and then you walk into Deadpool and Wolverine and they're just beating the crap out of each other with every blade they have.
And then you get the scene at the end with 100 Deadpools that are all impossible to kill. So everybody's getting sliced in half, stabbed every
I was like,
way.
wait, how did they make it to the end? and then they turn around and then they all kind of like get up and they get some stretching
and
in.
Nice Pool, who doesn't have the regenerating power.
Yeah.
Another hilarious bit.
Oh no, yeah.
Yeah, that was a great bit.
I'm gonna live.
Am I gonna die?
Yeah, when he starts doing the CPR on him, that shit was great.
Oh man.
Rest
Do you guys have a favorite Deadpool variant that we had at the end there?
I do.
Ooh.
I learned today that if anyone's a fan of the Wrexham Football Club,
That's what I was going to choose.
There was a Welsh pool, who was played by Super Paul Mullin, a forward for the for the Wrexham Red Dragons.
Sweet.
Yeah, flew him in and everything. That was great. Sorry, I stole yours, Jamie.
That's okay. I forgive you. Head pool, the decapitated head, was also a good one.
I'm trying to think on. I was actually going to say
Baby Pool.
Deadpool.
Baby
Pool was funny.
Baby Pool is good.
Andy, just say it. Just say
say Blake
Pool.
Lively. Just say
Yeah,
Blake
get it over
Lively.
with.
You
It's
know you want to.
Oh man, I was going to say that. Who play? Oh, Owen Wilson. Owen Wilson was the kind of Western pool. But I don't know his
was that
actual
Matthew
name.
McConaughey?
It was Matthew McConaughey. Okay.
I've got the cast and crew pulled up. I'll get it right.
A lot of great.
Missed opportunity to not have had Owen Wilson in this film? Yay or nay?
Old Mobius.
I kind of think so. Yeah.
Would that have been more entertaining to have another? Well, can you do a variant within the TVA, like a Mobius variant instead of this Paradox character? Like, what do you guys think about Paradox?
I thought that he joins a long line of Marvel villains, along with Cassandra Cain, that I don't care about at all.
Agreed. 100%.
I think that is true, with the asterisks that in this movie it mattered the least. Does that make sense?
Yeah, like the movie was still good, even though the villains.
It wasn't
were,
based around that villain.
Who cares?
That was just, there was a means to have Deadpool going throughout another universe. Like you needed your reason. And they made fun of the MacGuffin, and we can talk about that machine or whatever. But
literally called out MacGuffin.
Well, once again, it's like the point of the movie was to focus the least on other things that are happening and more on Deadpool and Wolverine, and then eventually X-23 alongside them.
Right.
Yeah, and I think if Mobius was in this movie, as Jake was pointing out, I think it would have changed the focus too much, and there would have been like, I say this like it's a bad thing, there would have been an actual story to be told about the TVA, which I think would just, I can't believe I'm saying this, I think it would make the movie worse if there was a more interesting story going on with the TVA.
I agree. I know you're absolutely right.
That's fair. It begins to shift the focus
saying.
off Deadpool and Wolverine. Absolutely. Yeah, that makes sense.
Well, it's so odd that they have this Paradox character that has a splinter cell of the TVA after we just saw Loki save spoilers. Loki saved the TVA and saved the god. He's now the god of stories, but there's this one little group over here that's kind of operating separately, which,
It's like the HR of the TVA. They're just doing their own thing. They just
if
have
you
their own
remember,
agenda.
Loki season 2, not everyone was a fan of what Loki and the team was trying to do.
Sure,
there were holdouts. In fact, there was a whole usurping effort in the very beginning of Loki season 2 with General what's-her-face?
Hux.
General Dox.
Hux? Dox. Yeah, that's right.
Dox.
Oh, yeah.
Hux. Different property. Dox. General Dox. Yeah. Tried to
Same
blow
company.
up timelines and tried to do it the old way. So I would assume that General Dox and Paradox were at...
There's a pair of Doxes.
I
Did we just
did that
stumble
real
upon
time.
something?
Wait.
Dox.
I just
We
did
may have
that
just
real
stumbled
time.
upon. Yeah, we may have just stumbled upon
my
something.
God.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Paradox. And I mean, Paradox, obviously, have Ouroboros. It's just names that deal with
Mobius
time
strip.
wibbly wobbly, but
Right.
but that is interesting. Again, I think General Docs and Paradox would have met and agreed that doing the things the old way is the best way versus this new TVA. I think they
Nice
used the
little
TVA
rhyme.
just enough. Any more may have been too confusing or have it annexed certain audiences that just didn't keep up with Loki. I think you could really understand it based on Matthew McFadden's explanation at the start of the film. Just enough.
I think I would have liked General Docs being that character in this film. I think I would have really enjoyed that decision.
Yeah, she died
Yeah, but this
7
could have been-
episodes ago.
This could have been before that moment. That could have been interesting, you know?
Anything could have been before anything right
Okay,
now.
I
right?
do have a bit of a gripe, but not a gripe that I'm like overly concerned about, really based on what you guys just talked about. But they did
The bronze
introduce
gripe.
a new concept as a part of this like anchor being in a universe that seemed like it's just a reason to make it so so Deadpool's universe is now going to die because some anchor being died. I feel like they should have introduced that as a concept in Loki at some point.
Yes.
Well, it's the
Because-
same thing that they have in Spider-Verse. They don't call it an anchor being, but they have those, whatever they call them, those moments.
canon
that-
point.
That doesn't excuse
canon
not
events.
including it.
It just
I
seemed
agree
kind
with
of
Andy.
like, or at least like go into a little bit more. Maybe they didn't need to. Once again, the point wasn't to like go into all the physics behind what's actually happening. You can go into Loki and see most of that, but I think it would have been helpful for them to introduce it in a different way. And it kind of makes me confused about like, okay, so Logan was the anchor being, is that right?
Yes.
Yes.
And he died, but then that universe is slowly going to die over a certain period of time.
Thousands of years.
So it's just, there's a little
I'm
bit
just-
there. I think they could have buttoned up maybe.
I just think I've come to the conclusion with all these timelines and alternate stories.
Doesn't matter
Just forget it. Try not to make sense of it. Ever since they introduced like the time warble thing in Loki, it's just it's nonsensical. Don't try and figure it out because it'll just piss you off. Truly,
Some
it'll
things-
just infuriate you.
Some things are adding up. I like the consistency of the TVA. Obviously, now Hunter B-15 is a prominent leader within the TVA, so
like
that
seeing
Yeah,
all makes
I like
sense.
that.
That was a good
I like
idea.
that.
Spaghettification is a very real and true present danger, apparently, in this multiverse. So we saw Cassandra Nova starting to get spaghettified before ultimately fully evaporating, which I think always so good and consistent to see that. So some things are starting to line up, but Andy, I agree with your general point. An anchor being, if it's so important to the continuity of timelines, should have been introduced after we found out that the sacred timeline's not real.
Yeah, like
Somehow.
there was 2 seasons of a show. I think they could have like
Yeah.
introduced that as a concept. Then again, they introduced a lot of concepts in Loki. So
They introduced, I would say too many. I would
maybe
go so
one
far.
too many, but we liked it in the end.
Well, I'll put it to you
Did
this
we-
way. They introduced literal infinite concepts to us.
Which is just one too many for us. Okay, so let's cool it down, Loki. But let's talk about the general docs of this movie, Cassandra Nova. Pretty cool. Pretty fine. Interesting.
Cool effects. We talked about the fingers
Very
through
cool
the face like that. Yep.
Yeah, creepy.
The
That was very
CGI
good.
of her powers are by far the most interesting thing about her. She's just another villain who wants to destroy every other universe other than the void that she lives in. Is it called the void? Whatever it's called. That wasteland.
The end of
place.
time.
That's the
Whatever.
point. That's
Yeah,
Void.
whatever it
Yeah.
is.
Elias
that's-
Playground.
Yeah, not an exciting motivation for a character. Kind of, it's hard to have an interesting character when they're just trying to destroy every other universe just because. But yeah, she was good. She was fine. Had some really creepy
I liked
fingers.
I like that she does have Charles Xavier's power, and if you have a psycho, a maniac that has Charles Xavier's power, grew up that way, there's definitely a reason she was leading the band of that group, because at any moment she could kill any of them.
Right.
So she's actually kind of unkillable, except in the way that she died. Yes, that's true.
She's unkillable except in the way that she died. Another quote for the ages.
They can't.
That makes sense.
They can't kill her.
It does.
They can't kill her. The only way they can kill her
worse than
is
my
if
trilogy comment earlier.
you gotta blow up the MacGuffin to kill the bad guy. Okay,
there you go.
Absolutely. I kind of struggled with the fact that why couldn't she have just escaped and just done this by herself way earlier? I think that was kind of a plot hole, but it was fine. Sure.
Yeah, just don't worry about it.
Again, the more you think
agree.
about these films, the less you're going to enjoy
True.
them.
Yeah.
For
We're
example,
not talking about this. We're not analyzing this
too
film.
much. I put way too much mental weight into them leaving the void or the end of time way too early into the film, and that kind of distracted me from enjoying it. I spoke to you guys at length about that. If they had gotten out sooner and interacted with other Deadpools, maybe that could have been an interesting take. But again, the story is about Wolverine and Deadpool and that camaraderie, which they nailed. So,
well, I don't remember. Can you guys remind me? Her motivation was to really just take out Paradox after she knew that Paradox turned on her. Is that accurate?
Well, you have to go back further and consider the fact that her motivation was just to be
there,
all supreme being in the void.
Yeah,
she didn't really even want to leave. Jake, I did find it a little strange that with all her powers that she didn't try to leave, or at least, I don't know, make a better living for herself.
She said, "Why would she?
Living
leave?
Why would she?
She's like a god.
But,
she's a god in this little area."
But gods get bored, man, as we know from past Marvel films. So I did find it a little strange that there was no better attempt. But maybe truly, from what we know about the Void, it is, to be fair, the two main characters that we have tried to see leave the Void were successful in that. So it's only when we're watching that you can leave the Void successfully.
Glad
it's
again,
a
Deadpool style fourth wall break right there. A little meta keyhole to unlock the Void.
But I think motivations are hard to discuss because she didn't really want to leave the Void in the first place.
Sure.
And then once she found the sling ring, she was like, all right, maybe I can get out of here. And then once she detected the time splitter 3000 Otron or whatever it was called.
That's the one.
She was like, okay, now that I'm out, I can harness this power and start being a better god figure for whatever effects that she wanted. So I don't know if we ever really learned her true motivations, and it looks like we never will.
No.
I did think the ending was slightly cheesy, but
it had to be, dude.
Yeah.
That's what they were going for the whole time.
Yeah.
Oh, you're talking about at the dinner table?
No,
Or
just
the
like
whole
the whole trope of like the villain like getting super powered, the world is crumbling.
But that's the whole thing. That's what they're going for.
Did you like how the universe's stability went down to 1%?
Yeah, exactly.
And then they saved the world.
And the hero was sacrificing
Let's grab
himself,
our hands together.
but he needed help, so his friend had to also sacrifice himself so they could team up and sacrifice themselves together.
None of it matters. It was supposed to be like that.
It was pretty fun.
Yeah, it was great. And we don't need to analyze the plot or the plot holes or anything like that.
Or how they survived it.
Okay, actually,
I was
was
logic
surprised.
and reason. This movie was about fun and entertainment and nostalgia and comedy. And it nailed all those things.
Mm-hmm.
Jamie,
Absolutely.
a character we did not see that we had talked about, like in the middle of the movie, we thought, oh, she's about to show up. Ravonna Renslayer, who is in the Void, did not make an appearance in this movie, which I'm surprised. Like, I thought maybe that was the whole point when we knew that they were going to go to the Void, was to, like, she would have some sort of role. But maybe that character did just die by Alioth at the end of Loki season 2. Spoiler.
Or Loki season 3 will continue her story and tell an actual story. Because I think it's the same thing with General Docs or Mobius of like
maybe
we don't need to in this movie we didn't need to be telling actual stories of the TVA. TVA was just a mechanism to
have
build on this crazy multiversal adventure.
I'm just glad the TV aspect of Marvel is been extremely effective at introducing concepts, not plot lines, but at least, we can grasp something from that and then find enjoyment out of it on the big screen. And in that regard, if you take it for what it is, just the TV shows as they are, not meant to be anything extravagant or spectacular, they serve a purpose. I think if you put like less investment into them, I think they actually then become more enjoyable.
Yeah, I like that point. I think this is the best framework from a Marvel TV show that has then been used in a movie. I don't think. I think they used the TVA just enough to fulfill their needs. The plot overall was weak. I think any superhero fan, us casual fans, whatever, I think everyone can kind of understand that. But that wasn't the point. I think they used the framework to the fullest extent. And would we have liked to see Ravonna Renslayer? Would we have liked to see Ms. Minutes somehow? Maybe even as like a little teaser. That would have been interesting. I don't think we needed all that. Could have been fun, could have been cool, but I think Jake's right. They used the framework of a Marvel TV show successfully for the first time, which is a celebration all on its own.
They very much think it is to be celebrated. That's a great point, Chris. Yes.
Our next test will be Brave New World to see if they can use the Falcon and the Winter Soldier show as a framework.
Even better point, Chris.
Significantly weaker scaffold to build a movie off of, but I guess
I'm excited that Agatha all along is going right into Captain America right after. It's going to lead right in.
That could be good.
I don't think it's going to lead right in. I think that's just
he's going to be a witch.
If there's not one witch from Agatha's coven, I'm going to be so angry.
Maybe Julia Louis-Dreyfus is a witch this whole time.
Ooh,
where's that whole plot line? I miss her. She's the best.
Hey, there's a movie coming up.
I know. She's got to be involved. Just like our
U.S.
dangerous
agent.
Captain America, U.S. agent. There you
US
go.
Agent.
Shan't we forget?
Yeah. And the Flag Smashers. Are we bringing them back, or are they?
Absolutely not.
And Gaia. Where's Gaia?
Where's Gaia?
Where is Gaia?
Gaia
there was no Gaia references in this movie. That's my golden gripe, is that he never mentioned Gaia even
For
once.
all of the shit that Deadpool put the Marvel Cinematic Universe itself through, yes, there was no Secret Invasion reference.
That would have been, if Gaia was in the void and there was a fourth wall break joke about that would have been so good. About like how overpowered and how absurd it was. That would have been so brilliant. I think that would have been great.
And just have Cassandra Nova pop her head.
Yeah.
I think I let's talk about this for a sec, because I think that brings up a good point. They did PG-13 rating here. They shat on the Marvel Universe as of late. I mean, they did not pull any punches. They name dropped Kevin Feige himself, which has been done before. Obviously, we saw She-Hulk kind of poke fun at it, but She-Hulk, whether you liked it or not, was more kind of a commentary on the Marvel fan base as opposed to the Marvel themselves. Whereas Deadpool and Wolverine pulled no punches talking about the MCU, the production, everything involved on the back end of the MCU. Do you guys think it was too much? You guys think it was just enough? Did you like it, hate it? What'd you think?
I thought it was brilliant. The only way they're going to overcome their own obstacles is by allowing Deadpool to just rip themselves apart, because then you're just siding with your fan base about how this has just been a shitstorm of events following Endgame, from a production standpoint, more so than just like an actual.
But like I was saying, you're watching this movie alongside Deadpool, so it makes it
right.
It's like you're talking with one of your characters, and it's really funny. I actually, at the beginning, I did get a little you know, we saw in the trailer, they made Marvel jokes. They made the Kevin Feige joke and the Marvel Jesus joke in
Marvel
the trailer.
Jesus, yeah, true.
And then they hit it a few more times. And I said, I was thinking to myself, you know, I hope they don't like keep on this too much. But then I sat in and I just lived through the movie. Like I didn't really pay much attention to I just kind of like let it come over me. Right. Like it's funny.
Ugh.
Oh, wait, I changed my favorite moment. It was not even do you want to build a snowman?
Yeah.
As an excuse for cocaine.
That was really funny. That's
was
actually
good.
one of the low-key, the funniest moments.
Yeah.
Little frozen cocaine joke.
Shout out. Yeah.
Jamie, your thoughts? Do you think it was too much, too little, just right?
I think they nailed it. I think they could have gone harder against the MCU.
Yeah.
Because they were nailing it. And I think, to Jake's point, they have to admit, and by they I mean the MCU, that they've been making terrible content for a while and that they've lost the plot in a lot of different directions. And in order to make a change, you have to admit to yourself that you've been flawed. You have to admit that you've made a mistake in order to grow and learn from that. And in the best way to do
So
that
insightful.
is
It is.
by making a whole bunch of dick jokes
Yeah.
and making millions and millions of dollars. So I think they're on the right path. They're on the road to recovery. And I truly do believe that Deadpool is Marvel Jesus.
Maybe.
Are you putting the MCU in a 12-step program?
Yes, I am.
I'm now recalling the moment. I remember Chris finding so much enjoyment out of this one particular line, but Deadpool calling out to Wolverine about how you're joining at a low point in the MCU.
That's the
great.
highest Hoopla.
That's great.
That's the highest Hoopla.
All right. Andrew's got that quote for later.
Man, I'm sorry I took it from you, but yeah, I mean that's a great line. Great line. Exactly what Chris was alluding to.
Okay, I do have a question as we're getting towards the end here. What happens now? Because they're now in Earth, what, 10035?
We are unburdened.
But they're
Thank you,
Deadpool's
President
such
Harris.
unburdened by what has been. 10035, which is apparently what the X-Men universe, and we never knew that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
You know? Do we just see these characters again in Secret Wars when they smash all the universes together? Do we see Logan again? Like, I'm not really sure at the end of the movie. And I kind of like that it was its own kind of thing. It gave us context around what's happening in the MCU a little bit with the TVA, but it's really just a send off to the X-Men.
What if Hugh Jackman comes back as Galactus?
Whoa.
Well, that's definitely
just a
not going to
joke.
happen.
First question: how?
I
want to
can't-
know your theory as to how this happened.
Well,
The same way
we
that
all
Robert
just
Downey
watched-
Jr. came back as Doctor
Yeah.
Doom.
That's a great point. All right, case
So
closed.
the how,
Case
I
closed,
guess, is a big ass Brinks truck filled with
just give them the
Australian
money.
dollar bills.
That's how, yeah. AUD, yeah, that's how you do it.
Yeah,
I agree, yeah.
Okay, answer my question, Jake. What are they going to do with the X-Men going forward?
Well, that's a great question. I'm going to start with I think now that we know, as a sort of a tangent, now that we know that Robert Downey Jr. is going to be the focal point for success for the MCU going forward, I think they can begin to just throw whatever they want at the MCU. They know it's a mess. Why not just try and take this in a direction that, provides another opportunity for them to just run with more actors that people just follow strongly behind.
You would say that we might see other X-Men from the Fox universe make a reappearance is kind of what your theory is.
Why not?
James
I think
McAvoy, Charles Xavier, or Michael Fassbender, Magneto.
Great.
Sure.
Yeah. Who's
I think that kind of goes against my 12-step program. If you want them to just move forward and just Fucking try a bunch of
what's-
random bullshit to see what happens.
What's your theory, Jamie?
I don't have a theory, and
Okay.
I kind of don't want to theorize about it. Just, just let it happen.
Let it happen. Let it happen.
Yeah.
Let's not worry about all these different universes and how they're connected to each other. And but let's just, hey, what if we just tell?
Well, I'm going to
interesting,
give you
enjoyable
my
stories?
theory. How about that?
Andrew, you clearly have something.
I have a
You
theory.
have, what do you got up your sleeve, Doctor Strange?
I have a theory right here with our friend Doctor Doom himself bringing together the universes in Secret Wars, smashing them all into one universe. In the end, bringing all of our different beloved characters fighting during Secret Wars. At the end, the universes explode. Now there's only one singular timeline left, and there's just going to be an assortment of different characters. The main characters that make it through Secret Wars are going to be some of our next Avengers, and they're going to reintroduce the X-Men following that, all new X-Men characters. I think we're going to see Deadpool and Wolverine one last time in Secret Wars, battling it out. I think most of them die. Most of the mutants die, but some of them make it through. And it's almost a reintroduction to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Phase 6.
It is going to be
Love
interesting.
that plan.
But- me too. Caveat. I am interested as to how they're going to weave Deadpool's character into other Marvel properties.
What?
The commentary
Just
that Deadpool
inject him
has,
into it. Why
yeah,
not?
but the commentary Deadpool uses, you can't make every Marvel film rated R. So
Do you think
Challenge
there's going to be more
accepted
Deadpool?
for Sean Levy and the team. Are you kidding?
I got the sense that there's not going to be any more Deadpool. I mean, I know
Yeah, I
they made a
kind of
shitload of
agree.
money, so
That's
there
a
probably will
maybe.
be. But
I think we'll see him at least in Secret Wars, just as a character.
they
But I
just
think
make
Andy-
every Marvel film PG-13 and just use Deadpool as the one F-bomb every
Yeah, exactly.
every
You
film.
you can't do two. You can only do one.
Yeah, do two,
Ryan.
There is a lot of outlets right now. A lot of theories are talking about this soft reboot of the MCU. Not so much killing off characters and starting fresh, but finding a way to do like that sacred timeline type deal where you're focusing on
need to
more
get back
structured
to it.
stories about heroes rather than all these team up movies or multiverse stories. And that is one way to do it, is just to have a villain clash all these heroes together and see who comes out the other end and start writing stories about those. We still have some of the old guard that we need to kill off. Doctor Strange is getting a third movie. Wanda is likely going to come back. I don't believe anyone really thinks that she's dead and gone as this all-powerful Nexus being. Deadpool, obviously Deadpool and Wolverine's made so much money. I don't see how they can ignore bringing them back. We've got young Avengers entering the fray. Jeremy Renner did just repost both the new Avengers movies on his Instagram, so obviously Hawkeye's not going anywhere. You gotta kill off the old guard
Honestly, I love
respectively
Hawkeye.
and
Give me
bring
an arrow.
this
Bow and arrow.
and bring this to a new foundational storytelling. If the MCU is going to go another 10 years, you're absolutely right. You have to axe something and
We
possibly
got to
someone.
condense it down to one timeline.
yeah, I think
100%.
Andy, I think you're onto something, and I think what you're getting at is you need one of these villains out of the 15 villains that all have the same plan to kill all the universes. They
Win.
need to win. And we
Win.
just
Yeah.
have one universe left, and that solves all of our problems.
Oh, they could have done that in this movie. They were so close. They had
That's
all the
what I thought.
squiggles. They had all
I
the
thought-
spaghetti. That
I
would have
thought
been
that
perfect.
this movie was going to be the reset. That's what I thought. I thought they were going to find a way
Yeah,
to set focal points going forward. But no, this was just a
They
yuck
need their
fest.
they need their Avengers 4 and 5 or 5 and 6 one year after
No.
the other, just to 2026 and 2027. That's when we're
Now,
going to get
here's
our
the
reset.
question. Do we get a visual of Robert Downey Jr., Victor Von Doom, or Doctor Doom situation, blowing up the Coliseum of Kangs. That way we have a good write-off. What
Good question.
Like what do we do? Like what are we talking?
Can we get at least one Egyptian movie with the Egyptian Kang?
Hey, bring Apocalypse back into the fold, baby. Why not?
Oh, that would be interesting.
Talk
That would be
about Egyptian.
and redeem the character.
Oscar
redeem
Isaac,
the character.
bring Oscar Isaac
Moon
back.
Knight
Redeem the character. I don't think
and
that was a bad movie.
Apocalypse.
People hated that movie, Chris. You just recently saw it.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love it, Apocalypse.
Yeah,
But-
I think there's a lot of options. I think overall, I know we're talking broad MCU now when this was supposed to be a focused Deadpool Wolverine conversation, but I think overall the
Inevitably.
multiverse saga has been not a success. Definitely not a huge success. Some
It's
people
been-
might even
it's
call it a
been
failure.
It's been a financial success after Deadpool.
But it hasn't been a storytelling success. It's been
Sure.
a lot of
Correct.
mediocre to extremely bad stories that are being told. And I think
Well,
maybe
there's
there's
some
still
good
a
ones.
chance.
Guardians of the Galaxy 3, baby.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I think there's a chance that as this multiverse saga comes to a close with the next two Avengers movies, maybe they turn it into something that was overall an interesting story.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, I think
Agreed.
it'd be better to just blow it all up and go back to a single universe. But hey,
Andrew,
Literally
you mentioned-
Secret
what?
Wars.
Andrew,
what?
you mentioned Guardians of the Galaxy 3. Okay, but the villain in that movie was trying to make a bigger multiverse of impact
Oh, I love
and
him.
ended up being defeated. And we had a beginning, middle, and end with characters that we love, and they never met another MCU character. You're saying that was the last success, so you're exactly right. We need to get back to that.
Let's
Oh, I know. I
use
agree.
I know,
transitioning
yeah.
franchises. Let's use the Acolyte strategy. We're in episode 4. This has been booty up till
Let's
now.
go- let's go to the
bring
mass.
it home. Let's land the plane, baby.
how
Let's
is this the
land
acolyte
plane.
strategy?
I
Anyway,
also
this
don't think
brings us
Acolyte
back
was
to
booty.
Yeah,
our
actually,
favorite,
I like
the first
part
couple
of the
episodes.
episode.
Episodes
But if-
1 through 4.
If we're talking about booty, let's talk about Ryan Reynolds' booty.
Oh, the scene with the
And that-
tailor
and that
where he
Xbox
grabs his
controller.
crotch 7 times.
Your Taylor's a bit
God.
of a horn dog, but
That was
He
really
says
funny.
predator.
That was
He says
really
your
good.
Taylor's
Predator.
a predator, by the way. And
that's what
speaking
this
of
movie
predators,
was about.
So good.
it is time for us to bring this episode of the Hoopla podcast to a close.
How was that speaking of predators?
Yeah, I'm very confused. about
Speaking
that
of predators,
transition.
Jake, go ahead and give us your rating for this episode.
I was about to do that, but I chose not to.
You went too slow, Jamie. Jake, your turn. What's your rating? Are we doing ratings? I think we all
gonna
loved it.
I'm going to give this an 8.2 out of 10.
Wow.
That's actually where I wanted to give it. I inflated that rating just to not disappoint people who hadn't seen the movie yet. I originally said an 8.8, but I really felt an 8.2 at the time after I finished seeing it. Again, I was very caught up on the concept of plot, and for Marvel, you just have to drop the plot and enjoy the ride. You have to enjoy the
ride,
ride. And I want to go back and rewatch this film because it was filled
Yes.
with just pure excitement, pure entertainment value. And it was just a fun ride. That's what Deadpool's all about. So
Yeah.
solid 8.2, but very open to a +1 +1 bonus for a 9.2 gray film.
What is
A
that
lot of
even-
math.
What does that
I
mean?
don't know what that
exactly?
means, but
So
sounds
You're
great.
open to a +1
I'm gonna
bonus?
I'm gonna
Either
give
give it a
my
+1
range
bonus or don't
an
give it a-
8.
what does that even
minus
mean?
1 plus
No.
1, but
Andy,
depending
we
on
have to
how
get
I
to the
wake
bottom
up.
of this.
I need to see it again. Presently sits at 8.2. Could be 9.2.
Oh, that's a huge jump. You know what? I
Okay.
like that, Jake. I like that. His range is high, Jamie, and mine is going to be an 8.5. Loved it. It was just I grinning ear to ear the whole way through. Like I haven't been in a theater that I clapped that much in a long time. And apologies because I clapped a lot. But
He
there were
did.
there were like it was just great to hear people's reactions to different jokes, but also like the I think that one scene with X-23 really got me. I really appreciated seeing Logan again.
It was great.
8.5.
8.5. I love it. Chris, what'd you think?
I'm right around there. I was going to say 8.8. I think the movie does suffer a little bit with its plot overall. I don't think it's the best Deadpool movie. In fact, I think it is the worst Deadpool movie. It's poorly structured. The characters don't mean as much because it's very much focused on Deadpool and Wolverine, and that's on purpose. That's okay. Again, Jake said it. We can drop the plot when we're watching a Deadpool movie, and if you do go in expecting to laugh, you absolutely will. If you go in expecting for them to expand the metrics and mechanics of the TVA and reference Loki at all, then you're going to be disappointed. But I didn't expect much in that department. I went in for laughs. They absolutely delivered in droves, and I think this is an 8.8. It only suffers in the plot department, and right now in the multiverse, I'm not much caring about plot. So 8.8, absolutely stellar film. Definitely go to the theater and go with your friends to watch this movie.
Mm-hmm. Hell yeah. Get a whole crew together and just enjoy it. I think I'll stick with that rating that Chris gave it. I'll give it an 8.8 as well.
Oh.
Plus or minus 5, though. So, but
depending on if your popcorn is soggy.
Yeah, it was just a great time. From the start of the movie to the end, I was sitting there with a smile on my face, looking over at Jake, looking over at Andy, laughing, slapping each other on the chests as the funniest jokes come out. And what more could you want than to slap your friend in the chest while watching a movie? And for that reason, 8.8.
JB, one final thing. It came to mind. It's kind of nice to see that a movie meets its budget on the first weekend. We've been seeing so many failures at the box office with Furiosa, and some of these other earlier this year. It was a $200 million budget, and worldwide it was what, 450 or so.
444 the opening weekend.
That's incredible, because this was also not an easy movie to make. Like, this was a risk,
right?
Like, and we have to give it to Disney that they allowed them to go to those lengths to, make some of these jokes really hit on Disney specifically, and it was successful. And I think it's going to get really good word of mouth, and it's going to be a $1 billion film, no doubt.
Without question.
Which I think would probably be the first $1 billion R-rated film. So it's historic from a cinematic perspective.
I think it begs the question then, what next? Where are the execs?
Jamie, what do you think?
Where are the execs willing to go? I'm just
they're going to follow the money.
Jake, that's an acceptable question. You're asking less about what's next, story MCU wise, and more what's next on the meta level of what type of movies are they going to continue to make?
Yeah, exactly.
Are they going to learn from this and make movies that people enjoy? Or are they going to learn from Secret Invasion and make terrible garbage? We will have to wait and see.
Just follow Deadpool's lead. He said, "Fuck you, Fox. I'm going to Disneyland." I don't know.
All I know is no matter how bad the movie is, I will be seated for Florence Pugh. Just saying.
During Thunderbolts?
What's that?
Yeah.
I'm excited for that.
Thunderbolts.
Oh, wow. Okay, cut that. I thought I'd get a better reaction there.
I was like, Thunderbolts. Thunderbolts. I'm excited.
I expect Thunderbolts to be. I expect it to be terrible.
Great.
Sorry. What? It's been in production for like 4 years and has had twice as many reshoots.
I thought you were talking about. I mean, Blade has been in production for like 7 years.
Just got delayed again.
Don't worry
Let's
about
focus
that.
on the successes of how
it's
good
a
this
win.
movie was.
It's a W.
So thank you all for tuning into this episode of the Hoopla podcast. Of course, you can follow us on all those social media sites that Chris mentioned at the top of the episode. And of course, if you want to just find a simple link, go to the episode description and press those cool little hyperlinks. They'll take you everywhere you need to go and more. One of them might take you to the void if you press it correctly. And until then,
how fun is that?
What are we doing next? Next up on the Hoopla docket, I think, is going to be The Rings of Power Season 2.
Finally.
We're
Back where it all
Let's
started.
go.
It's been a
The
lot of fun.
first Hoopla episode ever. Rings of Power Season 1.
How will Sauron manipulate his enemies?
And
Maybe through rings.
be getting ready for Joker 2 on the docket.
That as
And
well.
Joker 2 as
to
well.
Continue our hero
Yes.
hoopla coverage with that.
We've got some
Absolutely.
wonderful, exciting things coming in the future. We're getting good content again, which means we're having good Hoopla again. So make sure you're subscribed to the Hoopla podcast so you get notified every time we drop an episode. And as we
Secret Invasion season 2 just announced.
and the Hoopla podcast is canceled forever. So for the very last time, Andy, it is time for the moment of highest Hoopla, the quote of the movie.
The quote of the movie, as Jake spoiled earlier, as Deadpool says, "Welcome to the MCU. You're joining at a bit of a low point." Love it. Hoopla!
Hoopla.